The following is a rare interview with Domah, one of the best and most profitable prediction market traders of all time. In this conversation, we cover a ton of topics such as the Polymarket suit debate, how to make money on prediction markets, and if there is still edge in 2025. Hope you all enjoyed, and do not forget to subscribe. Yo, what's up, man?
Hey, how's it going, dude?
It's going well. Is it Domah? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah, Domer. Yeah. It's like a Boston accent of Domer.
You from Boston?
No, no, but one of my friends is, and he would always say it like that.
Oh, that's awesome. Dude, I appreciate you joining on such short notice. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm well, man. I was giving the chat like a little bit of we're live right now, by the way. I was giving
Okay, cool.
the chat a little bit of a background on who you are from what I know. I gave you a little bit of background about myself, which is we're mostly like basically all crypto finance focused audience stream platform. But Polymarket's on Polygon. I would consider it a crypto platform, and what you do has some overlap there. So I guess for an intro here, like, can you give me in the chat an intro on like who you are, what you do, and sort of how you grow your platform?
Yeah, well, before I go into that, so the reason I know you is because there was a market on whether you would ask Trump a question, and I was the biggest loser in that market. I did not
No,
think you would
I
do
thought
it.
you found
Yeah,
us from poker. You bet on that?
yeah,
No
yeah. I
fucking
lost
way.
money.
How much did you lose
Yeah,
on it?
I don't know. It doesn't 5 grand maybe. Not a big deal.
No fucking way. That is
Yeah.
awesome. I mean, not awesome for you. That's hilarious, though.
No, I mean, it is funny. It's a funny story because I remember the video. I was like, oh my God, he really did it.
That's too good. I thought because you DM'd us from you DM'd me when we did the poker stream, which was a little bit of a mess, and you asked
Yeah.
like when we were gonna publish the winners or whatnot, and you bet on that as well. How did you do on that?
Yeah, I did. I did well on that one because I was like following it super closely. But yeah.
That is too
Anyway,
fucking funny. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So background on myself. I started off as a poker player. I had a regular job out of college. I quit that to start playing poker. And then I very quickly like moved into betting on politics and like movies. Like movie box office betting was really big back then, and that has kind of grown and grown and grown. And then Polymarket and Kalshi, to a smaller extent, has kind of like accelerated that. The past few years have just been bonkers, and I went from like a small little person trying to eke out a living to like someone that's actually making real money, which is kind of cool.
Sick background. I'm curious, like, how? Okay, so you are basically trading prediction markets full time at this point.
Yeah, full time.
How big is the group of power users that are also trading prediction markets full time? Like, how big is that group?
Yeah, I mean, so for a long time, it was probably literally one person, and that'd be me. So, but in the past few years, I would guess maybe like 50 people at least. It's pretty big compared to where it was, and obviously it's still small compared to where it will be, 5 years from now.
It was seriously just you. Like, what were you primarily betting on, and what were you primarily making most of your money on?
Dude, I was grinding. I was on every single illegal sports book in the world. I was, trying to win $100 there, $200 there. Like, I was just trying to eke out a living, and but it was really fun. It was really challenging, and it was really cool that I didn't have to get a real job. But yeah, it was a lot of grinding, like small stuff. And my big wins were always like, who's gonna win Best Picture at the Oscars or the presidential election.
And how did you have edge betting on like the best picture at the Oscars? Like, what did you know that other people didn't know?
Dude, just so much research. I'm listening to well, I mean, if you think about like, okay, who's going to win the Oscars? It's a set number of voters. Like there's 6,000 voters. They have opinions. People talk to those people. So if you listen to enough people, if you try and distill enough of the opinion, like you can kind of get a gauge on what's going to win. And, back then there was less analytics. People weren't as smart about it. They were like, "Oh, I like this movie. I'm going to bet on this." So it wasn't as clued in as it is now. It's a lot harder to get an edge, especially where numbers are concerned.
This is fascinating. I have many questions for you. Let me ask you this: How much has Polymarket coming onto the scene changed like your ability to bet in prediction markets and just like change the whole scene as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, it accelerated it greatly. I mean, I remember when I first heard about Polymarket, which was probably like 3 months before I joined, and I was like, "This is it's not gonna work. It's crypto, it's silly," and it's like and then I talked to Shane, who's the founder, CEO of Polymarket, and he's like, "It's gonna be big. You're gonna be big. People are gonna know who you are. Like, you gotta trust me. It's gonna happen." And it's like, it's so interesting thinking back on that because it's like I did not have any faith that they would succeed, and they have succeeded beyond what I thought they would be able to do. Like the volume for the 2024 election was just bonkers, multiple billions of dollars. It's crazy.
So did you make money on the 2024 election?
Well, I mean, if you look at it during the whole year, then yes, I made a ton of money. But on the actual election day itself, I face planted. I thought Kamala was like a 60-40 favorite, and that's obviously looks very stupid in hindsight.
That's interesting. So as these prediction markets get more popular and there's more people that basically do this as their full-time job, do you think your edge is deteriorating?
I mean, yes and no, because it's like, yes, it's harder to get an edge and you're competing against so many more people, but also the pie's getting bigger, right? So it's like if you can carve out just a little piece of the pie and the pie's getting a lot bigger, then you're still making more money, even if you're not as good compared to everyone else as you used to be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So there's more money for the taking.
Exactly. Yeah.
You I had to like figure out what I was working with here, so I went through some of your tweets and was reading some of your threads, and you wrote this, I mean, unreal post about how you made $100,000 betting on the Pope. I mean, dude, it was like I you're like analyzing the writings of Italian news article. Like it was a fascinating post. I don't want to make you like repeat it and rehash it, but could you maybe give like a high level for the chat of like how you made 100K betting on the Pope and how you were able to identify that you even had an edge on something on a market like that?
Yeah, I mean, so like kind of the interesting and really fun thing about prediction markets is let's say something like Pope Francis passes away and like 3 weeks from now or whatever there's going to be a papal conclave, you know, and they put up the markets. It's kind of like a race. Like everybody is starting at the exact same point. We probably know next to nothing about the popes, the cardinals, the process, and it's like can you do research better than everyone else? Can you do research faster than everyone else? And as these markets are getting more and more liquid, as more people are tuning in, as it's getting closer to the actual conclave itself, the amount of money that you can bet is increasing, and so you really, really, really have to make sure that you're staying in this race against other people, that you're staying a little bit ahead, and that you can kind of get this edge over other people.
Dude, that was an unreal post. Like, you usually you don't do that, right? Because it's like you don't want to give up your edge, but because the Pope is only there's only a new Pope every what 15 years it is. Like you felt comfortable putting that out.
Yeah, I mean, so much of what we bet on is kind of like a repeatable event. Like, every 4 years is the presidential election and you know, things like that. Every year is the best picture race. But like, obviously the papal conclave, who knows when like every 15 years or so it happens. I think there was one time we went 30 years without one. So
Whoa.
I felt pretty comfortable thinking that I'm not going to be betting on this probably like 15 years from now. So I could probably go chapter and verse through the whole thing.
So there's this I don't know how deep you are in crypto, if at all. I can ask you about that a little bit after, but there's this sort of phenomenon in crypto where there's very popular traders, just like I would imagine there are in prediction markets, and when they buy tokens that are lower market cap, lower liquidity, people track their wallets, they tail, and the coin goes up, sometimes significantly depending on who it is. Like when you bet, especially on lower volume lines or lower liquidity lines, like are you moving markets? Are people tailing you enough to substantially move the price?
Yeah, sometimes, and that's a little bit annoying. That's one slightly annoying thing about Polymarket is, it's on the blockchain, all your bets are public. So it's kind of hard to be incognito and be like, "Ooh, I'm gonna try and get a bunch of shares of XYZ," because like other people are like, "Oh, he's acquiring XYZ. He's not an idiot. Like, what does he see?" But by the same token, you can see what other people are doing, and then also a big part of prediction market trading is being able to react quickly and being able to react correctly. And so it's not necessarily the acquisition, the long-term acquisition of shares that you're really worried about. It's more like what you're doing in the moment.
And so is the majority of your day like locked in front of a computer trying to arbitrage news as quickly as possible?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, when you say it like that, it sounds very silly.
I mean, that's what
But
we do.
yeah,
We
I
fucking
mean,
stare at charts all day anyways. That's the same thing.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like, but it's very dynamic, because it's like you get up one day and you're reading Italian newspapers, trying to run it through a translator, figuring out if this word translated incorrectly, and then the next day, you're watching a movie about Britney Spears to figure out if she's still sane or not. It's wildly different from day to day, like depending on the hot market or what you're betting on at the time. So the dynamic nature of it is really, really compelling to me. So yeah, I do stare at news, but it tends to it tends to differ, and being able to react quickly is also super important. So yeah, it's important to be in front of a computer as much as possible.
Is the skill set required to be good at this largely the same as it was when you started in like 2007, your bio says?
Uh, yeah, so no, because back then, if you think about 2007, that was before Nate Silver was a thing, right? I think maybe he had a blog that was read by like 10 people at that point. So analytics in general was just not really paid attention to. So much of what you were seeing on like the news or even like reading on the news was punditry, people making guesses. It wasn't really like people weren't really going into the polls and trying to figure out X, Y, and Z. Yeah, and the second order of that is like all of these correlations that exist, right? If you think that, for instance, Obama's going to win Ohio, he's probably going to win these other four states too, so you can react before everyone else. So, you know, people are so much more attuned to the analytical nature of things than they were back then, and you could just by knowing math and being clued in, like you could get just such an edge. But yeah, that facet has changed quite a bit.
That's interesting. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about what happened with Polymarket and the suit situation, and then kind of go into like how that's even possible, how the Oracle works. So did you bet on the Zelenskyy suit market? Like, did you make money on it? Did you lose money on it?
Yeah, so I wasn't involved in the most recent one because it was just so silly, but I did bet on one. So this market has been existing for like 4 months now. So the full context is they decided to start putting up this market right after Zelensky was dressed down in the Oval Office by
Got it.
Trump and JD Vance, right? So, and they were like, they were making fun of how he was dressed, etc. So the market kind of became a proxy on two things. Number one, he's going to wait till the war's over to wear a suit, so is the war going to end? And then number two, is he going to kind of bend the knee to Trump? Because Trump was like, this guy needs to wear a suit. So if he wears a suit, then it's like he's showing like subservience to Trump or what, whatever. You get the gist. So it was a market on this very specific thing. And the first fight, actually, so he wore this like quasi suit thing to the Pope's funeral, right? And
Okay.
people were like, "Oh, I'm not sure. Is that a suit? Is that a suit?" And when I first saw the market, it was at like 90% for yes. And I was like, I'm not sure this is a suit. Like it's not structured. Like there's all these menswear technicalities. Like he's not wearing a tie. It's not structured. Like I'm not sure that this counts. Like because if you think about the derivation of the market, it's like about whether Zelensky will put on this business suit that Trump wanted him to put on, and he's like very specifically dressing differently. So the interesting thing about the most recent fight is like he's kind of been wearing the same thing as a formal quote unquote suit for like 3 months. And when this market was like first starting to get really popular, everyone thought it was yes. And I came along and I was like, I'm I bet on no. So I did make a lot of money on no. And then fast forward to the most recent fight, he what what changed in this one is he wore pretty much the exact same thing, but there were a few media outlets that were like, "Oh, hey, he started wearing a suit," right? And the market is like, "Will the media report that he wore a suit?" So these guys had the people that were betting on yes and ended up losing their money. Like they had a point that like there's all these media outlets that have now called this a suit, so like, we deserve our money, etc. So that's kind of like the the history of the market.
Okay.
And obviously, the most recent fight turned into a big, cluster bleep. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to curse on here. I
No, you
assume
can
I am,
say
but
whatever you want. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Generally.
it was a clusterfuck, and it's kind of embarrassing for everyone involved, and it's a shame when stuff like that happens.
So then, can you get into the nuance a little bit about like the mechanics of how poly markets work, and then why, from what I recall, this market was able to be overturned?
Yeah. So there's a third part. There's a protocol called UMA, and they have their own token, and they're kind of the backstop to every single market. And like you never really hear about it because 99% of markets, like nobody, like there's no controversy, things are just straightforward, yada yada yada. So it's like, who won the Blue Jays game, and you submit the Blue Jays won, and it goes to Yuma, and they just rubber stamp it, and it goes through, etc. The only time you really hear about UMA is when there's disputes. Because let's say you submit, okay, I think Zelenskyy wore a suit, I'm going to submit yes. And I say, oh, he didn't wear a suit. You can then go into the UMA system and submit a dispute, right? And that costs $750. So everybody kind of has to put up or shut up. You have to put up money in order to dispute things or submit things. So, and then at that point, when there's a dispute, that's when the UMA token holders get involved. And usually that doesn't end in a pleasing fashion for everyone involved, because it's kind of like they're not super active, and you're like tons of people are arguing and posting, and it's unclear if anyone reads this or cares, or so it's not a very satisfying experience for anyone involved when UMA gets super involved.
And so, who holds these UMA tokens? It's like
Right.
is it a crypto coin? Like, what is it?
Yeah, yeah. So it's a crypto coin, and I think it's Risk Labs created this, and I think they own a couple of other projects that are more well known, like the Across protocol, like a bridge or something. So it's a company with multiple streams of crypto business, and this is one facet of it. So almost all of the big holders are Risk Lab employees, or like OG, like invested in UMA on like day two or whatever. There's very little, um, very few people are buying new tokens of this thing, which is
Well,
kind of the really frustrating part, because it's supposed to be decentralized. In an ideal world, it's like, okay, a million people are going to vote on this, and we're going to figure out the right answer. But the reality is, it's like 10 people that are really voting on this.
yeah, there's like five people that hold the coin. Um, market resolves. Somebody has an issue with it. They pay $750 to basically dispute it. It then goes
Right.
to the UMA holders, and then what
Yeah.
happens from there? Like that, you basically stake your tokens on like yes or no. Like, what percentage do you need to get through?
Yeah, so they're changing it all the time. I think the current one is you have to reach 66%, right? So there's been a couple times where it's like 50-50, and then they roll it and they run the vote over again. But what happens for every user, like let's say you have a bunch of yes in this market and you're like, I'm convinced this is the suit, like I'm going to make the argument. So they have a Discord, and they put up a thread whenever there's a dispute, and people go in there and they post paragraphs. It's like nobody's reading all this shit. It's just like if you scrolled through, it'd be longer than a novel. But people are like super passionate about it because they have, let's say, $2,000 at risk, and they don't want to lose $2,000, so they're going in there and they're making an argument. And then the people are like, no, you're stupid, it should be no, and these are all the reasons it should be no. So it gets pretty granular, and it gets a little messy, and people are really butting heads, and tempers are rising. So it's not like the best it's not the best way to figure things out.
So yeah, I mean, this is largely the same problem with DAOs and governance, but that's its own conversation. The circulating market cap of UMA is 100 mil, which is like not that high. And with 60% agreement, you can basically overturn any market. So $60 million can sway the outcome of any market. Is that like have there been other examples of egregious ones here? I saw that there was a baseball market that got fucked up the other day. It doesn't feel like it's that expensive to like overturn the outcome on some of these markets.
Yeah, but like, okay, that's like literally a one-time attack because let's say you tried to do that, it would cost you a lot more than 60 million to buy 60%, and then secondly, like the protocol becomes worthless. So you you would need to make
Valid.
more than 60 million on the scam in order to do that. But I mean, yeah, theoretically, somebody could acquire a decent number of tokens and then be able to influence the vote in a significant way. But I don't think anybody has really done that yet, which is a good thing because it's like you kind of want a wall between the people that are deciding the markets and the people that are betting on the markets.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Literally, you could do it, but then the whole thing goes to zero. So you better fucking make nine figures. Are you a hold? Do you hold?
Exactly.
Do you hold a UMA token? Are you participant or no?
I think I have like some very small, like nothing significant, maybe a few $1,000 worth.
And then is this sorry for some of the noob questions. Is this different from how like Kalshi works? Like, is this a scalable system that is just gonna be how prediction markets work long term?
I mean, so yes and no. There are different attitudes towards resolving markets, right? So what Kalshi does is they literally have, let's say, 3 employees, and the employees look at every single market and they're like, okay, this is yes, this is no, and that so it's a very centralized process, but that's very susceptible to human error because if you only have 3 people looking at a market, there's not a lot of redundancy there. So there have been a few instances where someone literally goes in at the last second, and let's say it's the Blue Jays, and they bet on the Tigers to win, right? So the Blue Jays have won the game, and they bet on the Tigers at 99 cents or whatever right before it expires, right? So this comes across the desk of the Kalshi employee, and he's like, "Oh, it's at 99 for Detroit. Detroit won, rubber stamped." This doesn't happen all the time, but it has happened a few times where they've seen a high price and they expire it completely the wrong way, right? So there are downsides for centralized, like employees expiring a market, whereas Polymarket has taken a kind of a decentralized approach, but it's only decentralized in theory, right? It's not very decentralized in practice. And then the second thing is you need kind of like buy-in from the if it's decentralized, let's say, let's even say it's perfectly decentralized and you have 10,000 people owning it and it's like a great system. But even in that circumstance, you need those 10,000 people to like be buying in and believing in your market and not just not caring and not reading. Like they have to actually be engaged and care about the platform and care about getting things right. So there are pluses and minuses to both systems, and prediction markets in general are still trying to figure out the way forward on how they figure out Oracle issues.
Got it. The main thing that comes across my feed is like Kalshi Polymarket Beef. Like employees like calling out Polymarket is like a seems to be like a popular thing that happens on the timeline.
I mean, it's ridiculous because it's like it's a growing space, and so much of the competition of prediction markets is not against each other, right? It's against the gambling website or buying meme coins or whatever. Like it's other things besides prediction markets, and what the goal of these companies right now should be is to like educate people and like show the good parts of this like thing and keep the pie growing rather than trying to get into war right now.
Okay, so then I have to ask, like, what is your take on how the Zelenskyy market resolved? Like, do you think it was a suit or no?
Me personally, I definitely do not think it was a suit, but I do think that they had a point because it was like so many media people were kind of like, oh, this is a suit. And if you have that many, and they also got a few menswear experts to weigh in, and they were like, well, technically it's a suit. And so if you keep the market vague, right, and you don't like define like, oh, he has to wear a tie and it has to be X, Y, and Z, then like they have a point bringing up all this stuff, So I I think ultimately no is the right call, but like it was pretty close for me to be switching back to yes again.
Where does this fall under like biggest prediction market controversies of all time?
um, yeah, but I mean, prediction markets are getting bigger in general. So, I mean, it's sort of like the latest controversy is always the biggest. So, I do think it's the biggest just because they've managed the people who bought yes were very loud about it and posting on Twitter, and that's their right. But they managed to get it into some like mainstream outlets that were covering this. So from that sense, I've also had people randomly DM me, right? Like, oh, what do you think of this suit? Like you messaged me, what do you think of this suit?
Yeah.
Like so many people who are not really paying attention like tune in to this very controversial thing. So it is the biggest one, and it's not a good look for really anyone involved.
Yeah. Some of these fucking posts, these threads, there's like all these pictures of Shane next to SPF and like it was getting dark on the timeline. It was wild. People were real, but rightfully so. Like, people have money on the line, things can get weird. But I appreciate the take on that. Um,
Yeah, I mean, people get desperate.
I need like a little bit more lore on some of these prediction, like the history of prediction markets. Like, what?
Oh, okay. Well, let me give you one. Have you ever heard of the guy called GCR?
I was just about to ask you. I mean, he's like the crypto legend. Like, what do you know about
Okay.
GCR?
Okay. Well, I probably can't reveal everything that I know, but I knew this guy when he had barely any money and he had never heard of crypto. He was on prediction markets, and I could tell he was a good trader, and I like connected with him, and we ended up. I invited him to this chat that I have, and that in that chat is when he discovered crypto, and he like created a crypto channel. And stupid me, I was like, oh, these dumbasses are still talking about crypto again. But like, meanwhile they're making millions of dollars, and he leaves the chat, and the next time I hear from him, he's worth like 200 million or whatever. So it's interesting that like, all of these more people than you think started in prediction markets, or my other world was poker. It's like, these are kind of like the keys to success, is learning how to bet on these type of markets.
You knew GCR before he ever even knew what crypto was.
Yeah, yeah. He literally discovered crypto in a crypto channel in my chat.
And you just like told him he was retarded and crypto sucks.
No, I mean, no, it wasn't even that. Like, I was just like doing my own thing. I was like, oh, they're still chatting in the crypto chat. No need to read that.
How was like OG GCR as a prediction market trader?
Super sharp, very, very well. I mean, as you can imagine, the
Yeah.
guy, the guy is very, very, very smart, and he was kind of like creative and like cunning, like all these skills that you would want in someone who's like betting for a living. Um, it's kind of like a chess player who's thinking like multiple moves ahead, right? It's not just like, oh, what's this going to be? It's like, oh, if that happens, then I want to be ready for it, and I want to be prepared for it, and I want to be buying XYZ. So, I mean, credit to him. The guy's a genius, and he found his niche, and he made a ton of money.
Is there any like really famous GCR prediction market trade that you were around for that like has war stories about it?
Uh, in terms of like making a ton of money,
Yeah, like huge profit.
yeah. Well, I mean, I was kind of privy to one of those, which was Joe Biden dropping out and Kamala becoming the nominee. So
Um,
back in like it was like towards the beginning of 2024, right? As it was very clear that it was going to be Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, right? I was starting to buy, and I was realizing it was like a stupid bet, but I was starting to buy a ton of Kamala Harris and a ton of um, Nikki Haley, thinking what the thesis was this: these guys are both really old, right? They're not like super popular, right? Even within their own party, people are like, "Oh, I'm not sure about this guy." And then the other facet is like they could have a health issue at any point in time. So it's like I want to be prepared for this. And like even if there's no health issue, even if we get to June and I've bought all these shares of Kamala Harris or Nikki Haley, there'll probably still be conspiracy theorists that are like, "Oh, he's about to drop out. He's about to drop out." So I'll probably be able to at worst sell it at cost. But so I was acquiring literally millions of shares of Kamala, and then when that debate happened, and Joe Biden was just like a zombie, and he seemed like he had severe mental issues, I was like, the cash registers were starting to go off in my head.
Whoa. And so you fucking caked it on that trade.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was buying her below 1 cent, and that expired at 100, and I was buying millions of shares at below 1 cent. It was crazy.
Whoa. And GCR was also in that trade with you?
No, he was not. No, no, he was not. But I
Okay.
mean, so GCR GCR made an even better trade. Sadly, he didn't get paid for it. Back in like right after January 6th, right? So we're going back to 2021.
Mhm.
And it was like Trump was at literally the least popular. People wanted him arrested. It was like it's not like this guy's done. Like put him out on the farm, right? GCR was messaging me and he's like, "I think Trump's going to be the nominee in 2024." And I was like,
Whoa.
"Are you on drugs? Like what world are you like I literally thought this was the dumbest idea I've ever heard." And he just kept messaging me about it. And he ended up making a bet with SBF at like 10 to 1 odds that Trump would be the GOP nominee. And I think he stood to win like $10 million. Now, obviously, that didn't pay out because FTX is no more. But yeah, that was an absolutely crazy call, and he would have made bank if FTX had survived.
I think I remember. How do you even have like if you go in the head of like a prediction market better, how do you even develop the foresight to bet something like that?
I it's like you really have to think of like contingencies. It's like for instance. So one of my biggest bets for 2028, right? And I haven't really made big bets yet because it's not super liquid. It's hard to bet on it. But like one of my big bets is AOC to be the nominee. And it's
Yeah.
not because I think AOC is going to win, right? It's because I think that like there's a wing of the Democratic Party that could be really, really pissed off, and they're like, okay, we want to go full populist. Like, let's go fucking socialism. Like we're done with all of this, right? And so if that scenario comes to pass, then these AOC shares that I've bought at 5 and 6 cents are all of a sudden worth like 40 cents, right? So it's just like kind of like being creative about the future and thinking about all the scenarios that could happen, and then kind of just making bets around that. And like oftentimes when you make these type of bets, like let's say it doesn't happen. Let's say Democrats are like, "Oh fuck socialism, oh fuck AOC." Like she'll still probably have true believers and be trading at like 4 cents. So it's like the worst case scenario is you barely lose any money, right? The best case scenario is you've hit a huge winner.
Do you think first of all, I like that trade. Do you think that there is a certain archetype of person that is just built to be a professional bettor, built to bet on prediction markets full time, and then everybody else is just like gonna be unable to do it?
I mean, that's that's a really good question. I mean, to me, like number one, a really successful prediction market trader, number one has to be like super interested in like researching stuff, right? You have to be really curious about the world. Like, I want to know, like, oh, are we going to land on the moon? Ooh, I want to research. Are we going to land on the moon for like the next 2 hours? So you have to be really curious about like a wide variety of things. And then number two is you have to be very good at how you're reacting, right? Because like stuff happens all the time, and you have to react correctly when stuff happens. And oftentimes people don't react correctly. Like for instance, like just to use this very simple, very straightforward example, the Biden debate last year, right? So many people watched that debate and they were like, "Oh, things are going to be fine." And multiple people that I know that were very serious in the prediction market space don't exist anymore. They completely wiped their account because they thought it was a lock guarantee that Biden was a nominee and everything was a meme. And it's like even after they watched the debate, and it's like you have to be you have to be so careful and react to things the correct way, and not like react to things poorly. I'm not sure if I'm expressing that correctly, but like, the two facets are curiosity and then really good at being able to react and like kind of forecast the next steps.
No, that was you explained that perfectly. Um, what? Okay, let me ask you this: like, what you're describing to be good at prediction market betting is probably the very similar skills that would make you good at poker, which are also the same skills that would make you a good trader, a little crypto. And I would also imagine the crypto to political prediction market betting pipeline is like fairly tight. Like, do you trade crypto? Like, you would be like a legendary meme coin trader. Do you trade crypto? Do you trade stocks? Are you like a do you trade anything, or you're like strictly prediction markets?
I mean, so I'm probably like an odd case because I'm not really like trying to get be like rich. I'm just trying to have fun and make money and like, just do what I love doing. And like what I love doing is trying to predict what's going to happen, the news, who's going to win best picture. Like I just love doing this and I love waking up and I love being able to trade this stuff. So, yeah, people have told me, you could make so much more money if you were doing finance or if you were doing crypto. GCR is like, why aren't you just doing crypto? Like you could be retired like 4 years ago if you did this. And it's like it's not what I want to do with my life, I guess. So I don't know if that's stupid or, you know, if it's a good thing, but it's just something that I've chosen to do is just kind of stay in my lane and have fun and try to build it from there.
So you just fucking love the game. Like, you're just doing it for the love of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Yeah, I'm a true believer.
Whoa. All right, I'll only keep you for a couple more minutes. I know I told you 30, but like, I mean, bro, you're an interesting fucking guy.
Oh, it's all good.
all right, I got like a twofold here. The first is it might have been the one you just answered. But what is your profit wise greatest trade of all time in prediction markets?
So I think it would be Kamala Harris, which I already mentioned, but there was one very similar to that, which was JD Vance to be Trump's VP pick, and that actually started as an even dumber bet than Kamala, and that was back in like February and March when JD Vance was at like 1 to 2 cents, and I was buying hundreds of thousands of shares. And here was my thesis. Okay, his previous VP was named Pence. Okay, Vance is 2 letters away from Pence, okay? And Trump is obsessed with marketing. So it's like he wants this one syllable name that's extremely similar to Pence, and he already won with Pence, so he's like, I think this is gonna be it. And it ended up working out, and who knows if that had anything to do with it. But yeah, I made a few 100,000 off of that one.
You made a few 100,000 betting on the VP because his name sounded cool.
Well, because his name was similar to Pence. Yeah, yeah.
Bro, that is not what I thought
Yeah,
you were gonna say.
I know. I mean, it's very stupid, but it's very funny.
So you really are like, I guess when you said about what makes GCR good, you're like, he's really creative, and you're like thinking
Yeah.
outside the box on these trades.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean it's easy to be a prediction market trader who's not creative and make a good living, and like I'll also say there are people that are super analytical minded who are building like models and statistics, and they're being very successful at their own thing. But aside from those people, like, yeah, you have to be super creative to be able to make a lot of money. I think you can make a little bit of money, you can be successful if you're not creative, but if you really want to hit it big, you gotta think outside the box.
I honestly can't believe that was your explanation. It was like so incredible. That is so awesome. I, I don't even really know anything about prediction markets and people that are good at betting on them, but I feel like that's where there's a degree of separation. Is your explanation? That was
Yeah,
wild.
so one more quick story. So the my most profitable bet for a very long time, right? Because the markets were so much smaller, was back in 2008 when McCain was picking his VP, and he kept it top secret, right? Nobody knew who it was going to be, and they're like in the media, it's like, oh, it could be these 5 guys, right? So me and another guy, he announced where he was going to pick the VP, and he announced the date that he was going to pick the VP, right? So let's say August 30th or whatever. So me and another guy went down the list of all the possible contenders, and we're like calling their press offices, and we're like, okay, where are you going to be August 30th? and people are like, "Oh, this governor is going to be at the fair that day," and it's like, "Oh, this could be bullshit. Let's call the fair." And the fair is like, "Oh yeah, we're expecting the governor that day." And so we're going down the list and we're like eliminating people one by one, and it's like, I don't think it's anybody on this list. Like, how the hell are we going to figure out who this VP is? Like we literally know the location and the date. Like, there has to be some way to figure it out. So what we did is we looked at we found the nearest airport, right? And we're tracking all the flights coming in. And one of the flights was coming in from Alaska. And we're like, what the? Because this was in Podunk, Ohio. And it's like, what the fuck is a flight flying from Alaska to Podunk, Ohio? It's like, what is going on here? It's like, oh, hold on a second. The governor of Alaska, Sarah Palin. And we checked the odds, and I shit you not, she was at 25 to 1, and we were able to bet a couple $1,000 each. And it was like, wow. And so not only do we make a ton of money, but I think we were also one of like the very first people in the world to know that he was going to pick Sarah Palin as his VP.
Dude, that is fucking nuts. Oh my.
Yeah, it's funny.
How many people did you have to track? How many people were in the running that you're calling, like where they are, calling the fair? How long was the list?
Yeah, I think it was this is so long ago at this point, but I think it was at least 5 people and maybe like up to 10 people before we were like, fuck this list, like it could be anyone.
Dude, that is one of the best stories I've ever heard. I'm not gonna lie. That is like a legendary story.
Yeah.
And no one else, like there is no other volume on Palin. Like no one else is tracking flights from Alaska.
Yeah, no. It was just us. I mean, it's pre-analytics days. People weren't as sharp as they used to be. If that happened now, like there'd be 100,000 people tracking flights,
So then
and
this is the
people would
thing.
be
It's
posting
like
about it on Twitter.
it was like the first question I asked you, and you had a good answer for it because you would think that now in the age of like mass media, social media, AI, it's like how would a literal edge like that ever slip through the cracks again?
Yeah, I mean, so someone has to discover it. So you just want that person to be you, right? That someone is going to figure it out first, right? And there may be 1,000 people trying to figure it out instead of 50 people, and you just got to be the person who finishes in first place out of that 1,000 now instead of 50.
Oh, that's so. All right, I got like two more like major ones for you. The first is just
Okay.
because like the lore is fun. What is the greatest prediction market trade that you've ever witnessed, like ever, if it hasn't been mentioned yet?
Okay. The great it wasn't necessarily the most profitable, but the most insane one I've seen was this guy named AG who secretly figured out that Rick Scott was not going to take so Rick Scott was the governor of Florida, and he had just been elected senator of a U.S. senator for the state of Florida, right? And all of these guys are um, sworn in on, let's say, January 6th. I don't remember the exact date, but let's say it's January 6th. And Predict It, which was really the only prediction market at the time, and they had an $850 limit. They put up a market. How many Republican senators are there going to be on January 10th? Right. And this guy, AG, I don't know how he figured it out, but he was the first one to figure it out, and he figured it out like days before everyone else. That Rick Scott, for whatever reason, was going to be like, well, fuck that. I'm going to be governor of Florida for as long as I can be, and then I'll just join the Senate whenever I want to. So Rick Scott didn't end up joining the Senate till like January 20th. And all of these markets that had been traded for, let's say, 2 years, and election day, people are figuring out how many senators they're going to be, and this market has to stay up. It's like a zombie market trading at 99% chance there's going to be 52 Republican senators on January 10th. All of a sudden goes from 99% chance to 0% chance because Rick Scott's like, well, fuck that. I'm not going to be sworn in then. And this guy had put in a max bet, so it was $850 max at 1 cent, and then he was able to put in $850 max on the opposite side. So he ended up making, it was like $170,000 on a site where that's literally the most money that you can make. Like, that's literally it. And he found it out days before everyone else, and it's just like my mouth dropped as this. It's like the twist at the end of a movie where it's like, holy shit, I did not see that coming. This market went from 99 to 1.
Holy fuck! Did you ever figure out how he did it?
He calls people all the time. It's like me, like I'm not calling people as much as I used to when I was like, first doing it. I was like, like the Sarah Palin thing. I was literally like ringing the phone. I'm not doing that as much as I used to, and I should. But he is so aggressive on the phone, and it's like. I'll just be talking to him about a random market. He's like, "Oh yeah, I already called the government about that market, and I found out." So like, as soon as he sees a market, he's apparently like calling people. So I, I'm assuming he made it. He figured it out through a ton of phone calls to the exact right people.
Wait, explain the calling thing to me. So like, if people are just like on the phone all day calling anyone you could possibly find out that might be related to the market.
I mean, that's his strategy, and he's very, 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 very good at that. So yes, he calls people all the time. Now this guy has a regular job. He's like a trader in real life, and he's very successful. So he doesn't like this is like a hobby for him, which is the funny part about it, because he's one of the best people in the space, and he'll just like he'll message me. He's like, "Oh, I just saw this market, and then I called people, and it's like, oh, this is the answer." It's like, what the fuck? He's just like, a superhero like swooping in to like figure out a market before everyone else.
Dude, the calling thing is sick. I fucking
Yeah.
that is so cool. Is there like
Yeah, yeah.
so do you like run a group chat with like the like I don't know 25 like best prediction market traders and you guys are in there just like sharing ideas all day?
I mean, I'm in a lot. It's more dispersed than it used to be, so I'm in a lot of like high level group chats. But yeah, I've been running one for like 10 years now, and we've hit some really really big plays, and like most of the people in the chat are like have made a lot of money. So that's pretty satisfying to know that like you put together a group and like everybody kind of uh ended up better off because of it.
Is prediction market betting a space where you don't really want confluence? Like you sort of want to be contrarian to win the hardest?
Yes, yes, because if you're just agreeing with everyone else, you're not going to get very good prices because there's going to be a lot of competition for that. So if you really want to make money, you have to figure out where everybody is wrong. So if I'm trading a lot at the time, right? If I'm like really focused in, I'll literally scroll through the markets. Like, let's say Polymarket has 400 markets. Like, I'm scrolling through the market. I'm looking at every single one, and I'm like, is this price correct? Is this price correct? And I think that's one thing that I'm really good at is like being able to see a market and be like, I'm not sure this price is correct, right? And then you investigate it a little bit, and you either figure out, oh, the price is probably right, or you figure out, oh, I'm onto something. Like this could be way wrong price, right? So it's kind of being able to sniff out when other people haven't picked up on something.
What percentage of active markets on Polymarket are you participating in, roughly?
Well, at this exact second, I'm not. I'm taking a break
Oh,
because
why?
we just moved and stuff. So but when I was like super active, it like literally, if Polymarket had 400 markets, I would be in 300 or 350 of them. Like I was
Oh,
just
you
bet
trade
all.
everything.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I'm not sure, I'm not sure if that was a good thing or a bad thing, but yeah, that's what I was doing.
Does it like bring you physical pain to be looking at these markets and you can't trade them?
um, I mean, if that was the case, then yes, I would be physically pained. But like, for instance, like let's say I go on vacation with like my wife or whatever, it's like she doesn't want me trading, so it's like I'm getting alerts, like like everything is happening as normal. I'm just not trading, and that can be like super frustrating. Where it's like I got an alert on my watch, but we're like at the top of the Eiffel Tower, and it's like, well, I can't do anything right now, like because there were a couple points, including once on our honeymoon, where I was like, time out, time out. I need to like do something real quick, and that did not go over super well. But one of them paid for the honeymoon, and the other one paid for the other trip, so it ended up working out.
That not even is so good. All right, this is the last thing I'll ask you. I swear I'll let you go. I said 30 minutes. You stayed for an hour. It was honestly, I'll glaze after. What? So I, as one of the most successful political and prediction market bettors of all time, how would you recommend someone that's a complete newbie to get started? And then is there still edge for someone that's completely new to make money?
Yeah, so yes, there is edge because as prediction markets have gotten a lot bigger, there's so many markets, right? And like the really smart people can't be experts at everything. So you can probably find an edge somewhere if you look hard enough. So that's number one. And then number two, it's like anything. I would deposit. It was like me when I first started poker, right? I deposited $100 and I lost it immediately. And I was like, well, shit. But then I deposited another $100 because I was like, I think I can do this, right? And it was the second $100 that literally started my whole career. So what I would say to people is like, don't be afraid to deposit $100 or $500 or whatever you can afford to lose, and like play around with it. And maybe you'll lose all your money, or maybe you'll win a ton of money. Maybe you'll figure out it's not for you, or maybe you'll figure out it is for you. But don't be afraid to take a little risk and play around with it.
What do you think you'd be doing right now if prediction markets just got like fully banned in the US in 2007 or whatever, and there's no way around it, and you couldn't do this?
I would be living outside the U.S. Yeah, I
Oh,
think. I think I would just move. Um, yeah, because it's like a lifestyle now, and I don't want to say addicted to it because I'm not like addicted to it, but like it's in my blood, so I would probably just leave the U.S. if that
wait,
was the
what
case.
what was the first thing you've ever bet on like in your entire life? Like, did you like bet on a high school game when you were like 14, and then all of a sudden you're like, I fucking love betting on stuff? Like,
No, no, no. So the first thing I ever bet on was like an NBA game, and it was like $3, and
and
that
how
was
old were
when I
you?
was a poker player. I don't know, 21,
Okay, okay,
22,
you were a poker player
right?
though. Fair.
Yeah, yeah, and I was a poker player who's, poker is a lot of like boredom between hands, right? So
Yes.
when you're between hands, I'm just like scrolling all this random shit, and it's just like, okay, there's a sports book. That could be fun. I'm gonna watch the next game. Like I'll put $3 on it, and then I was scrolling and I saw there was other stuff, right? There was like politics and there was like movies, and it's like, what movie is gonna win Best Picture? And so my first like actual bet on prediction markets was betting $10 that this movie Crash, which people hate now, but it was betting $10 that Crash would win Best Picture, and I think the odds were like 8-1, and I won $80, and I thought I was rich, I thought I was a genius, and that kind of launched my whole career.
Do you do like this is my rap. Do you do like interviews and stuff? Like I'm shocked that I've like never really heard. Maybe I'm just not deep in prediction markets, but I've never really came across you like until now. Like you're a fascinating guy.
Yeah, I mean, no, I do some podcasts here and there. Like I really only try and do stuff when I feel like it could be beneficial for the space, because I'm to go back to what I was saying, like I'm a true believer. So if I'm gonna do something, I feel like I want to be evangelizing for prediction markets and plugging it in a good way. So I'm not really into self promotion as much as I am kind of just like plugging the space.
Is there anything you like want to shill before we get off? Like, do you have like a course or like something you want to like plug to the audience?
I don't, but I wish I did, because like I was talking to some friends beforehand, and they were like, "Well, you got to come up with some meme coin, and you got to tell us beforehand like what you're gonna mention." But no, I don't have anything, unfortunately.
I'll tell you what, you'd be a legendary crypto trader. But Doma, honestly, man, this was one of the most fun comments I've had in a long time. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me. It was great.
Of course, dude. I'll like fire these. I fire all the clips on Twitter. Interview will go on YouTube, so I'll send you any links if you want them. But this was a lot of fun.
All right, cool deal, man.
All
Peace.
right, man. Have a good one.